Hello and welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. And right now, all eyes are on Frankfort this week. They're just wrapping up day 22 of the 30-day short session. The Kentucky GOP's sprint to firmly and completely win the war on woke pronouns and people they don't like. Well, look at what they've been up to this week. We have a great interview lined up with Lane Boldman, the executive director of the Kentucky Conservative Committee, to hear about how the environment is faring so far in Frankfort. We'll head back to the campaign corner with the new candidate for state senate, seeking to represent the 28th Senate District, which is these counties right here: Bath, Menifee, Montgomery, Clark, and some of Fayette Counties. Robert Sainte, did I say that correctly? I hope I didn't butcher his name. Robert Sainte then will close with an important call to action. So, but first, I want to know if you're ready to help turn Kentucky purple. You know, you mix blue and red, you get purple. We know our state right now is deeply red with supermajority in both the state Senate and the state House of Representatives. The General Assembly is primarily focused on cutting taxes for the rich, cutting social services for the poor, and winning the culture wars by passing the worst anti-trans legislation in the county. Well, actually, the country. How about that? And saving children from drag shows. I don't know what that has anything to do with anything. Drag shows have been around before I was born, and that was, a lot of years ago. So, if you want a commonwealth that works for all of us, which I'm sure that you do, join Progress Kentucky and support our campaign to turn our commonwealth purple. Make a donation, okay? And you can do it on our Secure Act Blue website and spread the word that we're tired of the GOP ignoring the needs of regular folks in Kentucky, and we think our Commonwealth is worth fighting for. So now it's check-in time with our co-host, and let us all know who and where you are and what does your protest sign say today. Oh, yes, and you there on the internet looking at us right now, we mean you too. We want to read what your sign says, so put it in the chat while we're sharing ours. Uh, my name is my name is Kimberly, and I'm from the biggest blue dot on the map in Kentucky, and that would be Louisville, Kentucky, Jefferson County. And also, if you see boxes behind me and all these things, I'm moving, so things are kind of in a disarray right now. But my protest sign says today, Kentucky, don't be like Mississippi. And Doug, how about you?
Yes, Doug Price. I'm from Harrison County, Kentucky. I live outside Cynthiana, and I always like to type out a real sign, I suppose. So I'm going to hold it up. It reads, I am woke and proud to be. Nate, what about you?
Sorry, just muting the microphone while my dog barks in the background. Thanks. Yeah, hi, folks. It's Nate Orshan, back special guest hosting tonight from Kitchen My House here in South Frankfort. And it's going to be a bit of a long sign, but I would hold it up gladly. My sign tonight says, "You didn't choose your gender and sexual orientation. Neither do queer kids." Back to you, Kimberly.
Well, first of all, I may have butchered Mr. Santee's name, and I'm sure that he will correct me in a little bit. But also, I called Lane Boldman. I said the conservative committee. Now that would have been exciting. However, it's the conservation committee.
Noted and logged. Oh,
That's
and then
right.
I think we just lost Kimberly. Oh no.
That's okay. I'll go ahead and start with our first story for tonight. We're going to be talking about so many things, so many horrible things are happening in our legislature. I want to continue the conversation about the anti-trans bills, including HB 470, SB 115, SB 150, and also I want to talk about HB 162 as a positive step in the left direction. HB 470 targets trans youths and their parents, essentially outlawing any service for trans youths under the age of 18 years old. One of the people who testified for the bill on Zoom from California, maybe they couldn't find any experts on this subject in Kentucky, told the panel in the packed rooms, hallways of people against the bill that a child's brain is not fully developed until age 25. Let's explore the whole 25-year-old brain development. Based on this expert from California, I bet a large majority of Republican legislators choose to submit their children to baptism. Was the child old enough to understand and accept that decision? This bill is about protection for those under 18 years of age from their parents. Well, let's talk about that. What other things might be considered? What about circumcision, a medical procedure that may need to be outlawed because an infant did not give approval? If parents need to be controlled because they are not capable of making good decisions about their children when it comes to transgender rights, so why not in other medical circumstances? We let kids play football, which puts them at risk of brain damage, and with practice ballet, which causes all sort of foot and leg problems in the long run, not to mention body image issues. Should the legislature do away with sports that may hurt young people? Certainly, parents must not have the best interest of their own children if they allow their kids to get hurt. Currently, Kentucky law even allows minors to get certain medical procedures without parental consent. Should that be changed? I want to switch gears now. I want to talk about a good bill. HB 162 is on the positive side for parents and their children. Representative Lisa Wilner and 16 other co-sponsors filed this bill on February the 7th that would ban conversion therapy. Conversion therapy essentially describes the practice of trying to force children to change their identity if it does not agree with the sex assigned at birth. The bill was assigned to the House Committee on Committees. A couple weeks later, on February 23rd, the bill was assigned to the Appropriations and Revenue Committee. Does that make any sense whatsoever? What does the Appropriations and Revenue Committee know about this issue? That committee has met twice since then and was scheduled to meet yesterday, but the bill was not on the schedule. I think that means this bill is dead, even though a recent poll indicated that over 70% of Kentuckians agree this practice must be stopped. This means a bill that allows parents to torture their children in the name of trying to make sure they are not queer will not see the light of day. SB 115, which purportedly wants to ban adult businesses in order to protect kids, is really an effort to restrict drag shows and other performances of that kind. This bill is another effort of the Republican-controlled legislature to legislate their belief on all things they do not agree with. SB 150 tagline reads, "An act relating to rights in schools." But it's really an effort to allow teachers to ignore trans children in schools. Currently, most schools have in place a requirement for teachers to refer to children by their preferred pronouns. That will go away if this bill is passed. Teachers could out students to their parents. Another attempt to conform everyone to the Kentucky Republican handmaiden way of life. One final note, the last days for concurrence are March the 15th and 16th. If bills are passed after that date, then the legislature cannot override a veto. I expect Governor Beshear will veto HB 470, SB 115, and SB 150. We shall see how all of this plays out. I encourage everyone who cares about people, really cares about people, to pay attention and remember in November, we need to change this red tide. Nate or Kimberly, either one of you all have any comments? Or Nate, would you like to go on to the next story?
I have a comment about it, actually. Um, just like they're reenacting Jim Crow laws down in Mississippi right now, which is a travesty, but people are fighting back. We have to do the same thing here in Kentucky. There is a war on the LGBTQIA plus community in this state. Right now, I don't even know how I could even live in this state if I were part of that community right now. We have to be respectful, whether we believe or we don't believe. We have to be respectful of humans. Everybody on this earth is a human being, and people need to be respected how they want to be respected. And here in Kentucky, I think we need to be doing more about the homeless situations and the food shortage situations that happen within our very own communities, rather than, about the pronouns and all this and that. Why do they even care? They've never cared about anything before, except for to uh, just violate all and everybody's civil rights in this state. So that's pretty much where I stand, and I will stand with all communities and give everyone the respect that they are due. How about you, Nate?
Yeah, right on. Ditto all of that. Uh, I mean, I think the reason that we see these bills, well, first of all, let's just make something clear. The fact that these homophobic and transphobic bills are sweeping the nation in state legislatures, that's a top-down thing. It's not a bottom-up thing. In other words, it's being disseminated and promoted by groups like ALEC, or the Koch brothers, whatever various things groups they're using these days to push legislation. And it's a way to get socially conservative people to the polls voting for Republicans, and it's just a time-honored tradition that they get people to vote based on sort of knee-jerk, very ultra-conservative social values, and then that allows the Republicans to do what they're really there for, which is sort of, gutting government oversight, lowering taxes as much as possible, and making things as easy for all the wealthy individuals, wealthy corporations, to keep making more money and expanding income inequality and wealth inequality, blah 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 blah. But the way they do it over and over again is through these kind of hot button culture issues. So I mean, it's a cynical thing they're doing, but uncynically, real children and real human beings are going to be hurt and are going to be in anguish because of these bills if they pass. And that's just despicable. So shame on all the people who are supporting them, and let's make sure that they get voted out and that these bills can't pass either. So
I'm just gonna
yeah,
say shame, shame, shame.
shame.
The number is up on your screen right now because Mr. Chuck Eddy, a very much a great friend of Progress Kentucky, and he says on here, we need to call, write, and show up in Frankfort. Yes, we do. And I tell you, you need to go to his Facebook. because he also has sample emails on there, and he sends them every day. Mr. Chuck Eddy has been a champion for all kinds of causes, and I know this one is dear to his heart as well, because it will affect whether you have a child, or whether you don't. If this is allowed to go through, just imagine all of the other things that they will put before us and choose everything but us. And Nate, I know you have a story. I want to make sure we get to that. And then also, we have some breaking news today from Louisville, Kentucky. Our own Attorney General of the United States, AG Merrick Garland, was in Louisville, Kentucky today. So I just want to take a couple of minutes after you, Mr. Nate, about what has happened here in Louisville, Kentucky today, to bring the chief officer of the United States, Attorney General Merrick Garland, to Louisville, Kentucky today.
Right, and that it may rhyme with the words consent decree. Oh, wait.
Yes. Yes. I'm just going to say it does rhyme with consent decree.
Hammer's coming down. So my story today is I have it, my little slide here I'll show for a second. To paraphrase Taylor Swift, Republicans gonna Republican, which is to say, try to sneak in bills that guarantee that people can legally carry concealed firearms any old where. So two legislative sessions ago, back in 2021, we had Republican Senator Johnny Turner from Harlan sneaking through a measure in the dead of night without hearings or even debates, and it would have allowed lawyers or even retired cops or judges to bring concealed firearms into court. Thankfully, it didn't go anywhere. But this, I believe it didn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this year's version of a bad concealed firearm bill is called House Bill 542. It's sponsored by Republican Representative Savannah Maddox from Dry Ridge. So per Kentucky Lantern's Liam Niemeyer, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, HB 542 was, quote, previously an unrelated bill about workforce development before the title and content of the bill were changed through a substitute bill. Substitute bills. Is there anything they can't hide before their true nature is sprung upon us all at the last minute? So the deal with HB 542 is that it prevent any post-secondary education facility, that's a college or university, from banning or even from restricting in any way people from bringing in concealed firearms onto campus. So if you're a diehard, pun intended, firearms enthusiast, you're probably laboring under the misapprehension that the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So in that worldview, the way to make us all safer from some rando shooting people up is to ensure that a maximal number of passersby are themselves armed so that they may quickly dispatch this aspiring mass murderer. Well, good news, or not if you're a firearms aficionado. It's been studied, and surprise, surprise, having more guns in the hands of the public does not make us safer. Here are some facts from the Senate Judiciary Committee just a few years ago, 2019. We will share the link in the comments. Overall, number one, they said overall, more guns on the streets means more crime. One Stanford University study found that, I'm quoting here from that press release, one Stanford University study found that overall violent crime was higher in states with concealed carry laws, increasing as much as 15% a decade after the laws were implemented. Whoops! Counterintuitive, but true. Point number two, also from this PR thing from the Senate Judiciary Committee, quote, in Dayton, a gunman shot 26 people in 32 seconds, killing 9. It took police on the scene less than a minute to kill the shooter. It's unrealistic to expect untrained civilians to respond in mere seconds when bullets are flying, unquote. Whoops! Well, maybe that's an argument for having more armed police everywhere. But the story of the mass shooter last year in Uvalde, Texas, from whom law enforcement officers retreated when they came under fire and waited over an hour before going into the school, that story does not seem to support the more cops, less shooting argument. So that we'll set that one aside too. And the last point that the Judiciary Committee press release made: armed civilians can make situations worse. During the 2011 shooting of a Congresswoman Gabby Giffords in Arizona, an armed civilian who helped subdue the shooter nearly shot the wrong person. So, in spite of mounting evidence that letting more people carry firearms, whether or not they're concealed, makes everybody less safe, that's what the evidence says, we still have bills like Senator Maddox's HB 542. So please do the Commonwealth a favor, and as long as you're calling the legislative hotline at 800-372-7181, please ask the GA to oppose this terrible bill. Thank you. Back to you, Kimberly.
Well, just talking today, just a few minutes, if possible, about the development of an investigation that started all the way in 2021. And the Department of Justice has come to Louisville to investigate not only the Louisville Metro government, but also the Louisville Metro Police Department. And Attorney Merrick Garland, I was very surprised. I had no idea he was in town. I had no idea that he was going to be making a speech. But what he found in the investigations, and for him to come all the way to Louisville, Kentucky, it must have been really, really bad. Some of the things that was found in the report was a trend of Blacks being pulled over for minor traffic violations and wanting to otherwise search. The way that they were calling Blacks in the city, boy, monkey, and the N-word, to the residents of Louisville, Kentucky. And also, Attorney General Merrick Garland also talked about the Breonna Taylor murder that was committed by LMPD. And also, it was brought up about how concerning all of these issues are of Blacks being pulled over more, underground, or should I say on the down low type of missions with the police department, groups that they had to dismantle. But all in all, just really quickly here, they came in and they found what Louisville residents have been talking about for decades. So a consent decree is something that the mayor had to sign. And what that is, and it's happened with many other states, is that this city, this police department promises to adhere to certain federal laws when it comes to policing. And so they're having meetings tonight with the different community activists, community leaders, pastors, and everyday folks like you and I to find out what type of policing that they want. What can the department do better for them and their specific communities? But it has been terrible down here. And also, Attorney General Merrick Garland also talked about how it was illegal the way that the Louisville Metro Police Department treated protesters in nonviolent protesting in 2020 and 2021 concerning Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and the treatment of the Louisville Metro Police Department. What say you, Doug, on this?
Gee, there's just so much that is wrong with that situation, and I'm so glad that the federal government is going to or has stepped in, because change needs to be made. There's no question about that.
Exactly. What about you, Nate?
A consent decree sounds good to me. I mean, we, ever since 2020. Well, I mean, even before that, but ever since like my eyes were really opened, with the slaying of Breonna Taylor, there have been just article after article about all this malfeasance on the part of the LMPD, and it's overdue. So I'm very glad that the federal government is exercising its oversight, and I hope that it's enough to clean things up and then clean them quickly. But I suspect there's a lot of systemic changes that are even bigger than the city of Louisville that need to change. As regards
Exactly.
police, yeah.
Exactly. And what really, really did me in, uh, this is going to be very, very shocking to some. He also talked about the great police officers that put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe in Louisville. And I do believe that the majority of police in Louisville, Kentucky are upstanding citizens doing their job, adhering to the laws and the policies and practices that they swore to, and really do believe in protecting and serving the residents of this city. But also, it was this is really the one that really ate me up. There was a trend for many years of LMPD concocting fake warrants and going to people's homes, um, especially dope dealers, going into the homes and stealing the money and the drugs and all of that. Like, what is a dope dealer going to say? Oh, they came in and they stole 2 kilos from me, or yeah, they came in my house and
Right.
Yeah.
they stole $75,000 from me. So a lot of these
Yeah.
things have gone, you know, without anyone speaking on them. But this has been a trend in this city. And then making up warrants, just like the warrant that was made up that the judge signed off on to go to Breonna Taylor's home. It was all fake. How can these things, these egregious things happen? So we want to remember, we want to be on board to make sure that things like this never happen again. So, of course, the Department of Justice has now moved on to Memphis because of the Tyree Nichols situation. So, hats off to the Department of Justice and everything that they're doing to actually hold cities, police departments, and governments accountable. I love it. I love it, man. I live in Louisville, and let me tell you, I love it. Thank you, Attorney General Merrick Garland. You never know. He might just see this. You never know, right? You never ever
Yeah.
know. So now we're going to move on to our campaign corner. And we've got Mr. Robert Sainte, or is it just Mr. Robert Saint? He's going to come on here and he's going to let me know exactly how to pronounce his name. So we're really, 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 really excited to have him on here today. So he is the person running against Mr. Robert Sainte, Saint, lost the May 2022 Republican County Judge Executive race by 17 votes. So that was by the hair of the chinny chin chin. So welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Please tell me, how do I pronounce your last name?
It's Saint. The E's silent.
Okay. I started saying both of them, didn't I? Okay, Mr. Saint, I like that. So, first of all, who are you and why are you running and how can folks help?
Well, I'm a business owner in Winchester. I've been in the industrial park since 1985. My wife is a small business operator as well. We've been married 25 years. We have 5 children. They're all grown. I've been active in the background in a lot of things. Most recently, my wife was heavily into campaigning for Reverend Warnock, and she wrote letters, and we sent him money. And I was chairman of the Private Industry Council of the Bluegrass Area Development District for 8 years. I worked with a lady named Brenda Rice and Adriel Woodman from Kentucky River Foothills on weatherization and homes for people that are the most difficult to serve for 10 years. Then I kind of just retreated into my little bubble, and I was very comfortable and started seeing all this horrible stuff that's going on. And my dissatisfaction really, really started with Breonna Taylor. And when Daniel Cameron whitewashed the people who murdered Breonna Taylor, and a good Democrat from Washington, D.C., the man that you just mentioned, Merrick Garland, had to get in the middle of all that. So then we see this upscale thing going on. And you know, the whole deal that really, really started this was that in November, Dr. Alvarado ran unopposed with one write-in candidate. So 3 days before the cutoff for throwing your hat in the ring to be the Democratic candidate, my wife and I decided it was time to throw our hat in the ring. And, you know, basically, we did that. And so we got the nomination, and we're going to go forward, and we're going to win this.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to Frankfort with our story. We're going to tell all of the people in Frankfort that we are a voice for the people, because the people will elect us. And like I said, the reason that I ran is because I just felt like I had to. The Republican congressional minority whip, Kathleen Clark, on TV 2 weeks ago, she was being interviewed about this big step that she took. And she said, well, Chuck, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. So I have an addendum to that. Well, Bob, it's never too late to reveal yourself. So who I am and what I am, and I, you know, just lived in my little bubble, and it's very comfortable, and just see all these horrible things going out and coming on. And the list of the Republican theys just keeps getting larger and larger. And they take these people, and they, the Republicans, say, well, you know, this happened and that happened, and the Asians caused the pandemic, and black people and brown people, you know, and then it went to Asians, and then the refugees at the border, and now it's trans kids. It's pathetic. And I don't think that anybody that really cares about the state of Kentucky can sit here passive. Because if you do nothing, you're approving of what they're doing. And I really don't think that the majority of people in this state approve of what they're doing and how corrupt they are. I just felt compelled, and my wife's right with me. We're going to go through this, and we're going to win. The portion of this that's ironic is that the Republican candidate, Greg Elkins, I've done a bunch of research on him, and it seems to me that what he has going for him the most is that he's William Elkins' brother. William Elkins is county attorney in Clark County. He stirred up another guy in Montgomery County, and his name's Richard Henderson. I don't know whether you've talked to him or not, but he served 4 terms in the Congress. He was also the mayor of Hendersonville. No. Huh? Jeffersonville, sorry. And so he's come out of retirement, and he's running as an independent. So this is a three-way race. And again, I've been doing some research, and it appears that the people in Montgomery and Bath County are really upset because the Republican candidate, without any question, always comes out of the Republican machine here in Clark County. So I feel like the Republicans in Bath and Montgomery County, in a revenge move, will vote for Henderson. And maybe even some people in Clark County will vote for Henderson. The eastern part of Bath County and Menifee County appear to be substantially Democratic. And so we're going to work real hard there. But the reason that I ran was because I felt like I had to.
You know, we can certainly understand that. Sometimes when we have perilous times, that's when the best come up and fight, right?
Exactly.
And, you know, Mr. Chuck Eddy is on here. I know you know Mr. Chuck Eddy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he
Yeah, we
says
talk
that,
about daily, actually.
really? Okay. He says that District 28 is most definitely winnable. I've done a little bit of research myself, and it is winnable.
Yeah.
We need more Democrats in these offices, most definitely. But first, the people are telling me that they want to know your Act Blue account.
My what?
I know you need money. You need money.
We
Your
need
Act
people.
Blue. You're
Act
right.
Blue.
We have an Act Blue account, and
I'll type it in.
the account is Sainte for Kentucky. The URL is coming up.
I'm gonna put it in the comments.
She's going to put it in the comments, my wife. And we need people on the ground, of course. And because this, another one of those county Republican deals, this was all decided before Ralph Alvarado left. So they had their candidate picked, they had this. So he's been working behind the scenes since November, the end of November, December. So then Ralph waits until the first day of session to resign so that all of us in District 28 have no representation this cycle.
Imagine
Yes,
that.
Yeah, well, it appears that the empty chair is doing just as good a job as the guy that was in it last year, except there are no votes.
No, okay. Okay. Yeah, he was crap. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say it. You know, I don't have to be politically correct, right? He was crap. And you know, Mr. Sainte, I see that you have Mrs. Sainte over there helping you out, and I think that she's wonderful and she's great,
Well,
right?
she is. And, you know, I have this. My mom used to say that behind every good man, there's a good woman. Well, we have an addendum to that, too. It's when beside every good man, there's a good woman. So
That's
we're
right.
doing this together. You know,
It's
this
international.
is
Right on.
a National Women's Day. So I want to give a shout out to all the women that give 100% every day and get
Thank
very,
you,
very,
thank you, thank
You're
you.
welcome. And get very, very little recognition, especially in Republican households. So,
Exactly,
you
exactly.
know, it's pathetic because, you know, like these guys, the greatest moment of this campaign so far is I have a friend, and he's been my friend for a long time, and he is a flaming Republican. He
Really?
has never never donated to a political campaign in his life. And today he sent me a check for $1,000
Woo!
and said that the reason that he did it was because he didn't have any good friends that were senators and he wanted one. So he,
Well,
it's like he wanted to give it to me real bad, and I could tell because, like I said, we've been friends for 30 years probably, and he's a larger than life guy. He used to have a houseboat company in Monticello called Fantasy Yachts, and he's
really?
Yeah. And he's
You
a
know-
powerhouse kind of guy. He's big and physical, and when he was younger, he was quite good looking. He's still good looking, but he's like me. He looks like an old white guy.
Oh, Mr. Sainte, stop it right there. We got to stop it right there because we got to move on. Seriously, we got to move on. We got to move on. It was just so delightful talking to you. I stopped looking at the time, but we do have another person that we have to interview as well. So, you know what? I believe that sooner rather than later, we'll be able to continue this conversation because I'm just going to say, I bet you're a hootenanny. I really do. I bet you're a hootenanny.
Thank you. I would love to come back.
Sounds good to us. So, Mr. Sainte,
I'll be there.
We really appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
And
thank you very
everybody,
much.
Bye.
Nice meeting all of you too.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was Mr. Robert Sainte, and he is running for State Senate in District 28. So if you are in that district or any of those counties that I named from the beginning, please get in touch with his campaign. He's going to need your help. He put the Act Blue up on the screen so you can donate. When we have candidates, they need everything. Mr. Chuck Eddy says the Act Blue link works. He just donated. So wonderful, 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 wonderful. So we're going to bring up now Lane Boldman, the executive director of the Kentucky Conservation Committee. I said conservative committee. How dare I? I wouldn't be upset if she was mad at me for doing that. Like, oh my God, no conservatives allowed ever. But first of all, Miss Lane Boldman of the Kentucky Conservation Committee. See, I got it right. A little birdie told us that it was your birthday.
Oh, well, it is.
Well, you know what we do for birthday people, right? Nate Dogg.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lane. Happy birthday to you.
Wait a minute, we got to do the Stevie Wonder one.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
So anyway, that's your birthday hug from us. And Nate might can get a contract, but Dougie Fresh and I ain't gonna happen. But first of all, tell us about, I was gonna ask how old are you, but I said no, I'm not supposed to do that. So tell us about KCC. What is it and how does it operate?
Okay. Well, first off, I couldn't spend a better place for my birthday. I really appreciate you guys and the work you do. And yes, people seem to have problems pronouncing conservation, but we are bipartisan. So I want to make that clear. It makes it a little tough right now with such a supermajority, but we do try to be bipartisan. But the Kentucky Conservation Committee, we've been around since 1975. We're probably one of the oldest conservation groups in the state. And we were formed back in the 70s through the other organizations that were around at that time, of which there were only a few environmental organizations. Our focus is environmental work. And the 3 or 4 groups that were around then had decided that they really needed more representation in Frankfort. And so they pooled their money together to hire a lobbyist every session. And then that kind of grew. Of course, at that time, it was only a part-time legislature. But over the years, we have kind of worked under the same model now with, full-time or at least, a longer session. We keep pretty busy year round now. We have 2 lobbyists that we supply to environmental groups, and we work with about a dozen different environmental groups now, because we've certainly grown quite a bit in environmental issues in Kentucky. So we basically try to work as a co-op to provide services for the environmental groups, especially the ones that are that don't have legislative as the core part of their work. We try to provide those services for them. So, like this session, we have been working with some electric car groups that are trying to get more clean energy going in the transportation sector. We had a nice little electric vehicle drive day at the Capitol, had a fun time there. We helped them navigate how Frankfort works or doesn't work. And so, we just do events. We monitor the bills. We don't get a lot of sleep at this time of year, especially in short sessions. But we just try to keep the whole environmental community up to speed on what's happening. And we work in 4 primary areas: land conservation, climate change, biodiversity, and clean energy.
I know that Doug has a question for you. I call him Dougie Fresh, affectionately. I do. You can
Yeah.
today if you want to, but after today, you can never call him that. Only me. But I know that Dougie Fresh has a question for you.
Yes, I have a question. Tell us a little bit about what is woke investing? Why is this performative backlash to environmental and social governance, corporate decision making something that we need to care about?
Yeah, I had to explain the whole woke thing to a friend of mine the other day that doesn't do this kind of work, and I actually really don't care for the term because I used to work in marketing, and language can be a very potent way to confuse people about issues. But what we're talking about is what's called ESG investing, environmental, social, and governance investing, which is not a new concept. It's actually a concept that's been around for quite some time, and most of your investors right now use these principles. And so it's the consideration of environmental, social, and governance factors alongside the financial factors in investment decisions. So it's a pretty common practice, but recently it's become the target. It's this year's bogeyman issue in the environmental sector, and this all came from a bill that was passed last year, SB 205, which was an energy boycott bill. The focus of this is pretty much the fossil fuel industry, and it was signed into law during the 2022 legislative session. And allows the Attorney General, the Treasurer, and others to go after certain companies working with the state who have a policy of fossil fuel divestment. The whole fossil fuel divestment campaigns have been very successful. And so this is the recoil for that. And the bill that was passed last year implied that investment firms and corporations were colluding to force fossil fuel companies to transition to clean energy. And therefore, the state should be boycotting those companies if they are determined to be boycotting fossil fuels. Now, the problem is how you're establishing the premise in the first place. I don't consider these investment firms necessarily boycotting fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are now not a very reliable investment. And so it's that fuzziness in how you frame this that has made this a target. But coal companies are going away. They are retiring quickly. They're not a great investment. Natural gas prices go up and down, so it's not the most stable investment. So there are clear reasons why financial firms, fiduciaries use these criteria anymore. So that bill passed, but it wasn't just Kentucky. This is part of a coordinated effort among several states. Similar bills had already passed in Texas and Florida, several other states. And also there are efforts happening at the federal level. There was a Department of Labor rule that was issued in November, followed by an executive order signed by President Biden that directed federal agencies to consider ESG policies. And Andy Barr is kind of at the lead of pushing back to dismantle that Department of Labor rule. So the other part of this is the oil and gas industry has been pushing back and actually training state attorney generals and state treasurers on how to go after these ESG rules or these ESG laws. The attorney general in Kentucky had a ESG working group to move the provisions of Senate Bill 205. And the treasurer has certainly been testifying quite a bit on this as well. So in this session, since that is now law, we've had 3 bills that have been filed that relate to this. And it perpetuates this narrative that financial firms are considering something more woke in their investment decisions than just simply return on investment, right? So there's 3 bills. House Bill 236, which is the big one that's moving right now. There's also counterpart Senate Bill 166 is fairly similar. And that pretty much is, those are pretty much focused on the whole issue of fossil fuel investments and really limiting the ability of financial firms for how they use their criteria on their decisions. And it's a huge government overreach. The Kentucky Bankers Association last year had filed suit against the last year's bill. That's still in progress. They are suing the Attorney General's office, accusing him of overstepping his limitations by compelling the banks to, prove that they aren't, intentionally boycotting fossil fuel companies. So it's really a big mess and a very coordinated effort. But the thing is if House Bill 236 goes through, which it's pretty close right now, and you can learn more about that on our Action Alerts page. It's kyconservation.org/alerts 2023, where you can find more information about this bill and other ones that we're very concerned about. But if this bill gets through, it's going to get even worse because there's a second bill that was filed, House Bill 533, that takes the previous fossil fuel divestment law and just puts it on steroids. It starts going after several different things. It adds divestment from firearms, divestment from petrochemicals, divestments from social media, information companies, and agriculture. I have to assume that's talking about tobacco, but who knows? But that's another one that's waiting in the wings. So it's pretty fascinating, the effort that's being coordinated around this attack on socially responsible investing, because the way we've tried to explain it to people, because it is a confusing issue, is, you do have to have some criteria. What if you were making investments in hostile foreign companies, right? You wouldn't do that. And to me, that's the same kind of situation. You have to have some kind of guidance in addition to just the fiduciary factors.
I will say this, that we do have a question from Mr. Chuck Eddy. He wants to know, has there been any actions by any of those Kentucky constitutional officers against any firms?
Yes, the treasurer has produced a list of 11 investment firms that she has determined fit the criteria of companies to go after. And so that list has been issued. You can find a handout about the details of that on our website, but I think you can also do a search of the treasurer if you Google Allison Ball and ESG investing. I'm sure you can find the list of the 11 companies, but some of the biggest investment firms out there. I mean, these are not small ones. And the concern is there have been some studies about what this would actually cost the state. Because in some states that have already implemented these practices, like in Texas, they are now finding that it's really impacting the state's investments. The whole point is to then apply this to state pensions and things of that nature. So a report that was released from a group we've been working with said that they estimated the cost to taxpayers on ESG funds. It could have an impact of anywhere from 26 to 70 million on the investments to be divesting from some of these financial institutions.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I would think, like I'm a member of the Kentucky Public. I'm a retired Kentucky public employee, and I have a concern about the investments by KPPA, and they're wanting them to stay away from ESG investments. But in my opinion, if the ESG investment is the best investment, then that shouldn't be factored in.
Well, it's an overreach, right? I mean, you've got to trust, like a lot of the issues that have been happening this session. It's an overreach of lawmakers getting into the expertise of the bankers who really do have the expertise to make those kind of judgment calls, and it's painting responsible investing. I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about responsible investing and investment firms that do good governance. I mean, it's fascinating to me that could be demonized, but that's what's happening.
I have one last question I want to ask you. Is it possible that all of these people who are talking about not doing ESG are running for office and they're wanting to gain some voters?
Well, you might find a connection there, yeah.
I have, I know Nate is back and we've got about 1 minute. Nate, since you're on here now, I know that you wanted to ask your question about the focus. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry about that.
Okay, Kimberly Cecil Jones. I'm
Long
normally
time
the one that's
listener,
always
first
on
time
mute.
caller.
Lane,
Which of these bills would you focus on?
The one
would you have people focus on?
The one that is the one in play right now is House Bill 236. And that one, let me see here, 236 has already passed the House. And let's see, it is out of the Senate State and Local Government Committee. That was heard today. So you want to oppose this through the Senate. So call the Senate on the legislative message line. Tell them you oppose this attack on socially responsible investing, House Bill 236. And you can find information about this and other bills of concern that are going through right now on our website under our alerts page. So that's kyconservation.org/alerts 2023.
Sounds good. We got it. And guys, it would really be in your best interest. You're going to have grandkids and great grandkids and the like, and nieces and nephews. It's really time to really be serious about the environment. It's really time to support organizations like the Kentucky Conservation Committee. This is the time to do it. I feel like in 2023, we're going to know for certain where we're going to go after this. But I stand with you, Ms. Boldman. I can speak for the rest of us. We stand with you. And anything that we can do to help anything along. I do believe in being green. I'm not 100% green yet, but I am trying to work on getting there. But it's been such a pleasure. I've learned so much this evening, as our viewers and those that will hear this podcast later on. Definitely, we're blessed that you were on here tonight, and you have really helped us out tremendously. We enjoy you, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
Okay, and like I said, we have several action bills on our website right now. So if you go to that link, um, the ones we have up on our action page are the hottest, and then you can go to our bill list of House and Senate. We have ranked probably 50 bills, and then we're watching all these shell bills that are going through right now. This is a really dangerous time, so we need people to act quickly.
Thank you so much for the information. And you know what? It's your birthday. Go and have a really good time now. So sorry that we can't be there to party with you, but it's your birthday. It's a holiday. It's your birthday. And thank you so much, Lane Boldman, for the information. And we will be talking to you at a later date. And we're going to keep up on what's going on in the Senate, State Senate, and the State House.
Okay, anytime. Thanks for the invitation.
Thanks.
So next we have that was just wonderful. I tell you, we had some really good guests tonight. But I do want to do the call to action really quickly, and also to let everybody know that I was standing in for the great Aaron Viles. He's doing some other things. Wish he could be here, but he's put us on task, and I don't think we had to do too much, guys, because we had the best guest ever, right? No, not ever, but we had the best guest tonight. Annabelle says, how rude, Aaron. Oh, let him have a break, girl. Let him have a break. That would be our producer. We surely love Chuck Eddy as well, but I'm going to do the call to action now. It's very, very, very important, this call to action. We need everyone to call the 1-800-372-7181 and leave a message for your representative and House leaders to do what? On the LGBTQIA plus community, of which Dougie Fresh talked about tonight, and also the gun legislation that's being put up, and also the bills on the website that Miss Lane Boldman just talked about. It is so important. Doug, I know you've got your vote is on what? House Bill what?
House Bill 470.
House Bill
I
470.
And I think Lane mentioned to call the Senate to oppose House Bill 236.
Okay. And or we could even mention House Bill 542, which was sponsored by Representative Kovana. Is that her name? If I said Savannah.
Savannah, but sometimes she's
Kovana?
referred to
Kavana?
Kavana. She doesn't like COVID restrictions.
I'm sure. None of us like COVID, right? So this bill denies colleges and universities the ability to prohibit guns on their campuses. So I just want to say a quick shout out to everyone that we had on tonight. We had future state senator of the 28th district, and that would be Mr. Robert Sainte, and also Miss Lane Boldman of the Kentucky Conservation Committee. See, I got it right, y'all. So we're going to have Doug to close us out tonight.
Okay, so we'll be back next week with another wonderful guest. Please let us know if there is someone you would like for us to have on the show. Can you believe this was our 103rd episode? Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, referred to as CAVE, are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Production of episode 103 this evening was by Annabelle Nagel. Thank you, Nate, for the theme songs. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. If you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook, don't worry, you can rewatch shows and see our source links on Facebook, or audio podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast. Logo and some graphic content was provided by Couchfire Media. More information can be found at couchfiremedia.com. Join us next week for another exciting show. Good night.
Dougie Fresh, you forgot something.
What did I forget?
You forgot to tell the people they've made it over the hump in the week and do something nice for someone. And they can do something nice for someone.
Yes, I did forget that. My apologies.